What's happening, guys? Welcome to another eclectic edition of PWT Pro Wrestle Times podcast. Yeah. I am your host, the infallible Phil Marks, and I am here with the wise man of PWT, Paul Nolan. Yeah. And we're just having a laugh, having a good time. We are listening to some good tunes before we hit record here, and we were talking about tons of music, and it's apropos because Jim Johnston and Def Rebel are trending. We'll get into that. We'll find out why. Who knows why? We know why. But guys, I want to thank you all so much. The main channel surpassed 2,700 subscribers. We're almost at 3,000. Thank you all so much. The other channel, at Pro Wrestle Times YouTube channel, got fast track monetized. They approved like immediately. It took a while to get there, but again, that's just where we upload the long form stuff, and now you can become a member there too. Don't worry, memberships are all the same. And speaking of which, we now once again on the show shout out our tribal chief patrons and our tribal chief YouTube members. So Gilgamesh, Rouse J1199, Sal Dosri, Kyle Mulkey, Joseph Morales, Derek Hance, Liam McBlain, Cruz Madrid, Sask Prophet, Ninja Boy. Thank you all so much. You guys get a fucking... Yeah! That's what you guys get, and thank you all so much for being Tribal Chiefs. I have Paul Nolan with me here. Marty McFlyer might pop in. He might not. He's busy writing fucking hits, winning Grammy. He's got another song I want you guys to check out. It just came out. He was a part of this song called Hurricane by Lucky Day, and yeah, maybe Marty can come in and talk a bit about that, but we're going to talk some wrestling music. But Paul Nolan first, how are you doing, wise man? How are you doing on this fine Argentinian day for you, snowy Canadian tundra for me?
Very, very well, mate, very well. Back to enjoying the sunshine after a rainy period. I'm looking forward to a big weekend of club and DJ mayhem, which is about to ensue after I finish recording this podcast.
Excellent. Yeah, and you're gonna be at some big ass party with like thousands of people, and I'm super jealous.
Yeah, two of them. So tonight, Mandarin Park for Camel Fat, and then tomorrow for a good friend of mine called Henry Size at the Oasis Outdoor, which is another beautiful outdoor venue, and that's more of a day party. I'm more of a day party type guy, if I'm being honest. And it'll be nice to kind of do some partying at sunset alongside some very, very attractive Argentinian people.
Yeah, dude, no doubt. Are the ladies just banging out there, Paul Nolan?
Off the scale. Off the scale.
Yeah. So, and then shout out Hairline. He's on tour as well. I'm trying to let you guys know where you can see him perform, because he makes music, and you guys already know. He's with Shaggy 2 Dope, ICP. He's always touring with those guys. He's super down in the Juggalo scene. Whoop whoop. So check out Hairline. He's out there making the rounds. So shout him out. Yeah. And yeah, where are we here? So I mean, I don't know where we're gonna start here. We just got a bunch of flipping headlines. Do you want some feel good stuff, or do you want some like kind of Nyla Rose stuff that's like might trigger people one way or the other? We're gonna get hate for talking about it one way or the other. But
should we start at the bottom of the pit and then slowly but surely climb our way out to a positive ending?
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. That's yeah. I was trying to sandwich it. I was like, let's do nice stuff and then weird stuff and then nice stuff. But no, we can get into this. Because it is, I think, a little bit older rather. So I guess we're gonna get into Phil Marks bookmarks. I need music for that. Paul Nolan's gonna have to hit us with some new tracks for the show here. It's gonna happen, folks. Okay, so basically Nyla Rose was Oklahoma issued a warning. The Oklahoma Athletic Commission issued a warning. News: I have received the minutes from January's Oklahoma Athletic Commission, MTG, about a transgender wrestler. In regard to Nyla Rose competing, the commission passed a motion to warn AEW not to do this again, or there will be punitive action taken. So basically, then Nyla Rose had a great response. Nyla the Riz Rose. She's fucking awesome on X as a follow, by the way. So here's the other thing. I didn't realize she was like transgender. I may have heard that, but I didn't even really realize that. I think Hairline may have said it once on the show. I was like, really? Like, I didn't even know. But who the fuck was it? Don't worry, Oklahoma. I'll find the dastardly transgender that checks notes, entertained fans. How dare they make people happy? Now, this is where basically, I guess, we don't need to get super deep into this, but here's my opinion on this shit. In actual sports, transgenders need their own division with like no weight classes or whatever. They can figure that out. Or like in actual sports where the outcome's not predetermined. I'm not going to say like an athletic endeavor. Like, I don't know. I like to say the professional wrestling sport. I think transgender should have their own division. And then I don't know what they do about weight classes and stuff, because I don't know how many of them there are to fill out a whole division, right? Maybe they just all compete against each other regardless, like an open weight until it gets there's more. I don't know, right? But I think otherwise you have to compete against what you're biologically born. And I'll justify that by saying, look at someone like Jon Jones. He's the greatest mixed martial arts competitor of all time, the greatest UFC fighter of all time, if you're unfamiliar with him. And he fought Alexander Gustafsson with estrogen levels, or he had like testosterone levels lower than like a 13-year-old boy or some shit. Or something like this. You can look it up. I'm talking out of my ass here, but you guys can look this up. Because he's been caught like taking EPOs and having pulses of fucking steroids in his system. So all I'm saying is that I understand people take medication or do whatever to therapy or to replace hormones and all of this sort of stuff. At the end of the day, someone like Jon Jones, who's a beast and is clearly a fucking a savage MMA fighter man, had like the estrogen levels of like a 13-year-old girl or some shit like that and beat the fuck out of a guy in a UFC fight. So my whole thing is like, we can't go based off that, because there's ways to alter like testosterone levels and stuff. So my whole thing is this: if you're going to compete, in real sports, it should just be what you're biologically born, or there should just be a transgender division for whatever sport they're doing, because we are seeing biological males win women's track meets and shit. Like, there's enough of that. I'm gonna just take the stance of that. But when it comes to like pro wrestling now, or like the circus, or like like American Gladiators, like, are you or whatever, like not like an athletic competition, maybe not that, because I guess American Gladiators would really fuck people up sometimes. But what I'm getting at is, when it comes to pro wrestling, dude, it's like a show. It's like, if anything, if I was a woman who had to would you rather get slammed by like a girl who can, or like a woman who can barely muster up your body weight, or do you want to get slammed by a potential, like Nyla clearly can power chicks up, man. You watch her in matches and she's fucking throwing girls up, getting them up for that beast bomb. Like, I don't know. If anything, like if I was like Tori Wilson and I was getting scoop slammed by fucking someone, do you want to be scoop slammed by someone who potentially is physiologically stronger or weaker? Just like, let me put it that way. So, because if people are trying to say like, oh, she might hurt someone, I disagree. I think she doesn't have a track record of hurting anyone. I think once she like landed on Britt Baker's leg after like a cannonball crush in the corner. I know I for surely made people mad one way or the other with my opinion on this, but that's my fucking opinion. So just to sort of summate my opinion on this, when it comes to sport where you may, I think biologically what you're born is what you should compete in. If you want it to be trans, that has to be a whole other division, and that has to be worked out with commissions and stuff like that. I think when it comes to pro wrestling, if you're still a state that considers pro wrestling a real sport, like your organization AEW needs to be on top of these things, know what sports have what, or I mean what states have what politics, blah blah blah, where is it considered a sport, and they need to be on top of these things and on the forefront of making a change with these things. For instance, UFC, they worked so hard. They got MMA legalized in Paris. They got it legalized in New York after years of dealing with corrupt politicians, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just think this is kind of fucking dumb. Personally, that they still consider it like a sport to where they're like, we're going to issue a warning to AEW. But then Tony Khan's catching heat because they're like, oh, will he still run a show there? Like a lot of the drones, if you will, I'm one of them, whatever. No, I'm both, dude. But a lot of the WWE diehards are like, oh, well, Tony will run a show there. Is he a bigot? Like, oh, this isn't the same stand. Like people are bringing up Vince and Saudi and trying to conflate these two issues. None of that. But I like how Nyla Rose handled it. And like she handled it with a fucking joke. And basically just exactly the main thing, like how dare she entertain people? Like it's not like she's really fighting people. So like if you're going to talk about like Fallon Fox was a big topic of discussion in the Joe Rogan sphere, like MMA, a biological like no, I just don't really agree with that. But if we're talking pro wrestling or the circus or cheerleading or fucking whatever, a predetermined one of those shows, the medieval times where they sword fight like fucking knights and they put on a show, I'm cool with it, so whatever. Sorry if I made you guys mad. Sorry if some of you guys applaud my take. That's my take on it. And yeah, I want your take on this, Paul Nolan.
The question that I initially want to ask the Oklahoma Athletic Commission is, they know it's scripted, right? It's that thing. It's like, they know wrestling's fake, don't they? I mean, I agree with absolutely every single word of what you've said there, Phil.
Thank you. I felt like I bumble fucked my way through that though, and I'm like, dude, I probably triggered so many people, but I was trying to be.
And that is the problem, right? So
yeah, objective.
The problem is when you bumble fuck your way through it, it's because you're worried about having a word out of place. When what you're all really doing is just giving a rational, well thought out opinion, and you're giving perspective. And everything you said, I pretty much agree with. I am not in favor of, biological males competing in combat sports against biological females.
Or that breaking like weightlifting records. It's unfair.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I do agree with the open category concept. And even within that, you have, and I'm not equivocating here. In fact, I'll use a different, because the comparison I was going to make would actually trigger people. But in motor racing, for example, I'm big into like Formula One, sports cars, that kind of thing, like Le Mans 24-hour type stuff. Awesome. And in the Le Mans 24-hour, we have something called BOP, which is balance of performance, which is designed to, say, for example, if one car is lighter than the other, you add weight to the lighter car in order to slow it down. And it's like in horse racing, where they have the handicap where they add weight to try and equalize the performance. It's a similar thing, like, and you can do that within open categories. So you get more interest, and then you can gradate it. So you could actually get some very interesting categories within an open category. So there's actually something to be explored there that from a sporting perspective could be very, very interesting and lead to some great competition. Dude, it's fucking wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, come on, this shit's like, we can say it's like beautifully constructed sports-based performance art, and we're also fully within our rights to go, shit's fucking fake when it's
dude, exactly.
Right? At the end of the day, Nyla Rose is perfectly entitled to perform any way she likes under any form of identity that she likes. And, from what I've seen of her, she's a great wrestler. And the fact of the matter is, I love what you said before about, like, do you want to be scoop slammed by Nyla Rose or, like, I don't know, Zelina Vega, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's that thing. It's like, and even on the men's side, it's like, CM Punk said the safest match of his entire career he had with Brock fucking Lesnar.
Yeah.
Because Brock just like
He can put
manhandled
you
him.
where you want, where you need. Now, again, I don't
Exactly.
want to be insensitive and be like, "Oh, Nyla manhandle you, whatever." But all I'm saying is,
But she
yeah,
has a
or
physical advantage. She has a
right,
physical
and you
advantage.
see all the wrestlers standing on her side, and Nyla, again, I didn't even really realize she was trans, but the whole thing is until like this really all got drummed up, but then I was like, I think I did know that, but I just didn't pay it really honestly no mind. But the
Yeah.
thing is like you see videos of like, you know, there might be someone who, I don't know. It doesn't seem like she's doing this to try and break fucking weight lifting records or whatever. You see
No.
people who clearly are kind of this, it's sort of like an you know what I'm getting at. I'm trying to not piss anyone off, I guess. So
No, of
anyways,
course, yeah.
your thoughts on it. She just
No.
doesn't seem like she's fronting. Like it seems like
No.
Nyla's Nyla. This
And
is who she is, dude. You know,
totally,
like
yeah,
make
totally
your
agree with you.
arguments, your political arguments, or whatever you think it
Yeah.
is,
I'm
like
just gonna
on
go off and
transgenderism.
entertain
But I think
people.
she's
Yeah.
legit. You know, like
Yeah, of
so
course, yeah.
that's all. That's all I'll leave there. You know, that's all. I'll
Yeah, of
leave that there.
course, yeah.
Sorry,
And
you go ahead.
she'll just go and entertain people to the best of her ability, and that's
Exactly.
all that matters at the end of the day. And you know, when it comes down to stuff like this, I have absolutely no problem at
No.
all. You know, it's well presented, and to be honest, what I would do in that situation is that I would immediately book a show in Oklahoma, and I would immediately book her in the main event.
Yeah,
Very
and
similar to what happened when I can't remember where it was. It might have been New York or somewhere else. Back in the day, they had like a no blood rule in
right.
wrestling, and then apparently there was a Triple H match where he got busted open so hard it was like there was just like he had the crimson mask. He was just like bleeding all over the canvas, and they did it deliberately to make a point. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, if Tony's got any fucking balls, which I'm clearly questioning the fact that I've even said it, that would be exactly what he should do. He should back his talent, make a statement. You know, AEW has made pains to be behind transgender rights. I mean, just look at like, you know, Punk with his
Yeah.
t-shirts and, you know, him standing next to signs and
Yeah, that
everything
triggered
else.
people
And
too, eh?
yeah, it triggered a lot of people. You know, at the end of the day, mate, it's an emotive and very complex subject with no easy
It is,
answers.
bro.
And the fact of the matter is that we've all got our takes on it. I prefer to keep a lot of my takes on it fairly private, and also it's kind of like nothing to do with me. It's like whatever you want to do, bro. You know,
That's
or
what it is
sis,
with me. It's like
whatever
I
you
don't
want to do.
fucking yeah, it's like it has nothing.
Yeah,
It's not my
it doesn't harm
it's
me.
yeah, it
It doesn't
doesn't
harm me in any way. It doesn't affect me in any way. And you know, I
right.
understand that it does affect some people, but by the same token, you know, just to sort of like boil it down to the essential point, like this is just ludicrous.
Yeah,
Absolutely
it's just so and it's
ludicrous.
shitty that she's been because I always put her over too. I was like, man,
Mm.
like that's like your main big beast, the native beast.
It's
And yeah,
not as
shout
if
out my
she's an
native people.
unsafe
I always gotta
worker.
hold it down for my native people, man.
No, of course
Um
not. And yeah, it's not as if she's an unsafe worker. It's like, you
no,
know,
that's the
she's,
point I'm
I
trying to make.
mean,
Like, where has
you
she
take,
hurt people? So here, oh, this is the point I wanted to make. Nyla Rose, or pardon me, Nia Jax. Damn, their names so similar. Now that I'm gonna mix them up now that I'm saying them at the same time. Nia Jax in the Rumble got beat up by like 4 dudes in Oklahoma, and no one else was crying about it. You know what I mean? So let's just put it. We all were like, "Damn, that was crazy." She got RKO'd at 6 foot
I
9.
was going to say,
So
yeah,
we
Randy
can
out there.
beat her ass with 4 dudes, but Nyla Rose can't fucking wrestle whoever she's wrestling, right? So
Yeah,
Athena,
insane,
hopefully
mate.
that would be who I'm built like. I don't know, dude. Those women need to be called up from ROH. Like, bring Nyla Rose up, bring fucking Athena up. Shout out
But
Athena.
as we know, Tony, despite even bringing in the likes of Mercedes Moné, doesn't give a shit about women's wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, dude, we spent a good chunk of time on that. I didn't want to spend too much time, but I don't know. I bumblefucked my way through it. But if you're triggered by anything, who gives a fuck? Just be cool. We're here to talk wrestling. We had to talk about it. We can't just like ignore things like this because you might get triggered, folks. So I appreciate you all for, I don't know, have your opinions, discourse it out in the comments. So okay, that was the we're gonna get into some, I guess, lighters, because that is sad that Oklahoma's just being like, I don't know, it just like, okay, that's just last thing. And like Nyla obviously feels singled out by that. It's like opens up a door to like single someone out and just shine a spotlight on like shit that no one's even talking or thinking about. Like, and I just feel bad for her in that way. So that's why I also approached it where I was like, damn, it's kind of a negative thing, but everyone's cooking Oklahoma. So that's the last we'll say on it. They're getting cooked, dummies. But in some good news, I guess, if you will, Soft Ground Wrestling Uganda. Are you familiar with this promotion?
I've seen clips, mate. Yeah.
They're like a Ugandan, like, sand wrestling, soft ground. They're wrestling in the mud. They got, here's their ring. And I tweeted out and I X and I laugh about it. They have better storylines than AEW. I'm not even joking, dude. So they have this Cool Man is like their big baby face, right? That they've been building up forever. And this guy, what's his name? Mr. White or whatever, is like whipping them. Yeah, I think his name's like Mr. White or Dr. White or whatever. He's a colonial guy who's taking over the land, and he's a white dude, and he like whips them with a belt, and he's like recruited some of the Ugandan locals to like help him beat people down. So fucking Masai Imaswa, who we've always put over on this show, Mansoor and Mace, show up in Uganda, and they help take out Mr. White, or I think that's his name. I forget it. They'll say it. Dude, this shit is so epic.
So cool,
this made me so happy when I saw this. Bro, even the production, look how they catch the facial, and then, you know what I mean? Like, they catch the facial, then go into the move. Like, even the production's on point with these guys, man. Ooh. Yo, incredible. Super kick. Double south of heaven, dude. Come on. I don't even think Priest hit one of those. What's going on here? Look at it. These guys selling too, dude. Oh good, my man. God. Selling so good.
It's good. It's good shit, pal.
It is, man. This is amazing. Yeah, I'm coming. I'm getting back in the business. I'm going to invest in this.
Jack and Vince buys Soft Ground Wrestling.
Yeah, it's soft ground, but I'm going to make the ground hard. They're going to work so hard for me. Yeah.
Brass ring wrestling.
Well, let's get them a 20 by 20. Is this 20 by 20? And we need actual ropes with tape on them. And otherwise, this doesn't work.
Get Kevin Dunn in here.
Get Kevin Dunn in here. We need more zoom-ins. Yeah. I thought I fired you. Cool man, cool man, cool man. Cool man, 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 cool man. Oh, he's gonna chop the shit out of him. Airplane spin.
Yes, yes. Let's on. Let's fucking kill him.
Yeah, dude, in a world gone mad, that's a little fucking, I love what they're doing. This is the effect of wrestling. I love that MXM went and did this probably on their own dime, which, I mean, I don't know. And just look at like the promo. Oh, yeah!
Paxley must be more severe.
Dude, he's peeing on him is the angle. And then MXM show up. And yeah, just talk about two guys who took their release and made something work out of that. You know what I mean? Your thoughts on the soft ground wrestling and just MXM, like that shit will bring a tear to your eye, dude.
That honestly is one of the most wholesome things I think I've seen in wrestling in quite some time. That just like really warms the darkest corners of your heart. It really does, just to see them go and do that. And yeah, I mean, great, it's gone viral. I mean, you look here on Twitter alone, it's got over 2.5 million views. So it's obviously served an amazing purpose for everyone involved. But the fact is the way it's brought like very, very disparate people together. And I've got to say, everyone at Soft Ground, they look like they can fucking work. They really do. There was some good looking stuff in there. And I wouldn't be surprised if, there'll be some interest from some promotions off the back of this.
No doubt. So speaking of interest in promotions, Matt Hardy said, I'm talking to WWE. I'm talking to everybody. TNA, I think, has a pay-per-view tomorrow night, and they're really hyping up, or maybe tonight, Rebellion, I believe, and they're hyping up a big return. They're doing all sorts of spooky shit and everything in WWE. They're saying, dude could be part of the Wyatt Six or whatever, possibly, which would make sense because he's one of Bray Wyatt's old teammates. But Matt Hardy's commenting on AEW as well, which a lot of people are like, oh, he's just lobbying for a job back at the other, which it could be that. It wouldn't shock me if it was some of that. I want your take on it, Paul Nolan, but basically he says AEW is losing goodwill with fans catering to such a niche audience. So he listens to PWT confirmed. Because we've been saying that. Matt Hardy also goes on to say AEW needs to appeal to casual fans. Backstage issues probably deterred some fans from supporting AEW. They should have left the CM Punk stuff in the past. So further proof he listens to PWT. And I just want your thoughts on, I guess, him just being a little more vocal and yeah, just him saying they need to cater to casuals. Like I had a tweet go, I don't want to say viral, but a lot of people, it caught a lot of people when I tweeted out, because someone was like, oh, Burger King doesn't whatever, so McDonald's blah blah blah. So first off, that's food, that's not fucking wrestling, stupid. But second off, what I said was like, it doesn't matter, the objective's the same. Burger King's objective's still the same as McDonald's. They're trying to what they're like, okay, they make toys for Happy Meals, Burger King makes toys for their kids' meals. What they're doing is they're still trying to make the best food, even though they do it differently. They're trying to make the best food while appeal to appease their daily customers, while also trying to garner casual customers at the same time. Like the mission statement's still the same, whether you're Coke or Pepsi, or whether you are Burger King or McDonald's. So these people just don't fucking get it. And Matt Hardy's saying it now that he doesn't need a job. So I want your thoughts on sort of Matt Hardy basically coming out and saying what we've all been saying.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thanks, Matt Hardy, for obviously, saying what we've been saying for quite some time. However, I would take it a lot more seriously had he not basically crawled up the ass of Tony and the Bucks and then doubled down, and then was having quite public spats on Twitter with Jim Cornette and Bryan Last, as well as trying to effectively try and prove something to the people who are effectively paying his paycheck. So to be honest, kind of rings a little bit hollow for me, and it's a bit sad and it's a bit unfortunate because I do believe that Matt is a great wrestling brain, and apparently he's an incredible teacher and could be really, really beneficial to whoever he ends up with. I personally think he will end up back in WWE. I don't really want to see him have much of an in-ring role, if I'm being honest with you, but he's an amazing mind. I've seen him talk about like real technical breakdowns of like, how the Twisted Fate was come up with, and how to actually perform moves and in-ring sort of technique and stuff. So he'd be an amazing asset around NXT, for example.
Training the next crop of tag team talents.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, it's like, he's saying whatever he needs to say based on where the wind's blowing, basically. So I kind of just take it all with a bit of a pinch of salt, and not too tribalistically, when it's like, oh, he's agreeing with me now, and all that stuff. It's like, no, it's like, he's saying what's expedient for him, and, fair play, he's playing the cards he's getting dealt with. But, I find it difficult when, people's stances, they tend to be wind socks, basically. Do you know what I mean? Like, they change their stance based on whatever way the wind's blowing. So, whatever.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us the Grammy award-winning writer himself, Marty McFlyer, the
What's good?
What's good, man? Dude, I was playing Paul Nolan, your song. I've wanted to connect you guys for a long time. We have a world touring DJ, Paul Nolan, and we have a Grammy award winner right there. I've dabbled in the music myself as well. We were saying Hairline's on tour right now, actually. So we love music.
Shout out to Hairline.
Yeah, we love music here at PWT, and I wanted to make this happen, and it just so happens randomly Jim Johnston and Def Rebel have been trending like all day as well. So I was like, damn, it's so apropos. The universe came together. Marty, you had quickly. I want to plug Hurricane that just came out.
Thank you. Yes, listen to it.
Lucky Day. Everyone go run that up. It's phenomenal, man. We'll talk about that more later, but I want your thoughts on Matt Hardy. Basically, you want to jump right into the wrestling or what?
Yeah, of course. We can get to music whenever.
We'll get to it in a bit, man. So Matt Hardy, like, you think he's he said I'm openly levying, but now he's calling out the criticisms that he may have been defensive of once before. What do you think about that?
I mean, he's just doing what everybody else does when they want to jump ship. It's no different in a way than what Cody was doing when he first started. He was leading the charge, and then he was the first one to not necessarily redact it, but he took accountability and owned it. Matt's doing is he's smart. It's one thing anyone can really say about Matt Hardy is he's incredibly smart. His business, his mind for the business and marketing himself and making chicken salad is great, especially like with the parallels, like the opposite parallel, like Christian. I feel like Matt and Christian, in terms of just wrestling minds, for the way that everyone talks about them, to the way that they can break down a match, to the way that they're able to go to different places and like make something of themselves that's better.
Yeah,
I think he helped his stock, because like when he left WWE and then went to AEW, granted in an arena with no one in it and using that stupid drone. I hate that so much.
That fucking drone, man.
Oh, he got people to forget about it, because I recently forgot about it till Twitter decided to remind me. But as far as him levying, he's gonna say what he needs to say. He also knows how the other side. He knows how both sides work at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be different with his criticisms, because everybody's going to be loyal when they're on that side. Whatever side you're on, you're going to champion what you're doing, the people you work for, even if you don't believe it. The amount of money that if Tony Khan was going to give me a check to float in obscurity or do absolutely nothing, despite not loving the program, by all means, I would be the first one defending and cutting corners and making up bullshit to do that. If the check's clear, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I would do it too, and I would just start doing, like, I don't know, do you have another passion too? Just start doing your side hustle like full time while you're working for Tony, just sitting at home, like,
He works once a week. He works like what? He's on TV once every 6 months, especially if Jeff's out. Free catering. I don't know how good their catering is. I've heard it's all right, but I mean,
yeah, but he's old school. He wants to help the business, man. Like these guys who get it, they want to leave something for other people when they're gone. something bigger and better. So I get it. It's frustrating for veterans who've been there. Like the Hardys were there when WWE was like in the shits to where it was like booming hot, to the shits again. So
Jobbing in the new generation to leading the charge in the Attitude Era, or help leading the charge into the latter
exactly.
parts of the Attitude Era. So I mean, I get it. I can see why it's frustrating. There's been multiple people that have been there. I mean, Brett said something, Bischoff has said something, a bunch of other people have always said that they've tried to teach and spread the knowledge and make the business better. And then there's a bunch of entitled, prissy indie guys that only want to work one day. What did Triple H say? Who only want to work one day a week.
Grind.
The grind.
Like the grind. Speaking of the grind and getting a check to sit in catering, Motor City Machine Guns are signing to AEW. I'm just
my
kidding.
God. I was in mourning yesterday.
Yeah. So what do you guys think of that? Paul Nolan, are you very familiar with the Motor City Machine Guns? Have you followed them?
I haven't followed them religiously, but I'm with Marty on that one. It's like my heart sank yesterday because it's like, oh, another tag team or another talent goes to the place where talent goes to die.
Yeah, WWE's tag team division could use them, but I think that I think that they are legends in the game. Like they've innovated, they've helped so many people, they've trained so many people. Like in the indie circuit, I think they wrestled in NXT. I know Alex Shelley did for a little bit, a couple matches or whatever. But they,
I think
I don't
Saban
know.
was there, had a cup of coffee there, or he did a couple appearances. Was it the Cruiserweight Classic?
They deserve to get their bag and just sort of chill back and do their thing. I like, to me, I classify them as like they're vets in the game who deserve to just get their money and work like 1 to 4 times a fucking month, and get Tony Khan money, because Tony's paying them. Well, he just fired 10 people to basically bring these guys on, and what everyone feels like backstage, or at least yeah. So I don't know, man. Good for them. I'll say good for the Machine Guns, but it's obviously going to be them and the Bucks. Like they're going to be the super over baby faces, but that's got to translate to a larger audience, which I just don't think AEW has the storytelling capabilities to get this shit over with the fans. You know what I mean? Yeah, Marty, what do you think? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, are you pumped? Would you have liked to see them in WWE?
Of course, any respectful pro wrestling fan would have loved to have seen what they could have did in this era, in the Paul Levesque era. Yeah. Even in NXT, like going down to the Performance Center and like training craftable minds that want to learn and want to get better and want to, be something in the business and respect it. I have to say that
if Tony Khan was smart, he'd have a PC. Sorry to cut you off, but if Tony Khan was smart,
or a power plant at the very least.
Yeah, he'd have built one already. He just doesn't care about that shit. It's crazy. It's great. Like Daly's place should just be that, the NXT center. You know what I mean?
Facts. Yes.
Yeah,
yes. 1,000%. And they're gonna go there and get their check, which is fine. They're gonna probably have to put over the books because that's what everybody else does. Because anybody with any kind of respectable notoriety that could give a great match and deserve a shot. I mean, they ruined LAX or Proud and Powerful. I hate that name, by the way. Proud and Powerful. Was anything with the Lucha Brothers? I just feel like there was reluctance to do that because as soon as they did it, they turned it around and just
they were hot for that up.
Oh no, they fucked that up completely. The FTR
but it
thing.
got fucked up, but they were hot, man. Same with Lucha Express or whatever that shit was called, Jurassic Express. That shit was hot, dude, for a minute. Yeah, like they had such potential with that.
Oh my god! And then what was the group with Daniels and Sky? Was it Sky, Daniels, and Kazarian?
SCU. Yeah,
SCU. They ruined that. They could have. It was written in stone that it could have been perfect with Private Party. Like when they first got there, just butchered it. House of Black. That's a whole other.
That's a whole other fumble.
I'm just naming them out. Like who is there? Like I feel like at some point Jericho is gonna find a way to just figure out a way to work with them and ruin that too.
How shitty was it on Dynamite where Jericho hit Taz, like pushed Taz, and then Hook just stood there? And it's like, dude, if someone just punched your dad out, you'd fucking come on, man. That's crazy. But we also have one of the best friends, Rocky Romero. He's been promoted to vice president of New Japan. And he's not only a vice president in New Japan, but he's a vice president in AEW currently as
What
well.
does that mean?
Wait,
What does
wait,
that
whoa,
even
whoa.
mean?
Both?
Both, dude.
Wait, I didn't hear that. Both?
Yeah, both, bro. This,
Oh
according to
my
Wrestling Observer, so
God.
you know it's true because these guys all talk to Wrestling Observer. And shout
Of
out Rocky
course.
Romero, like Asuka. I've
No.
never fucking hated on him, but
He's dope.
yeah, he's dope. I've been a fan of him since like Roppongi Vice. Like same with Trent. I was always a fan of Trent, so that's why the best friends thing sort of pissed me off a little bit. But this makes him one of the few people in wrestling history to be vice presidents of two major companies because he's a vice president in AEW as well.
Who isn't?
I heard about something with CMLL too, right?
And New Japan. So maybe he did work for CMLL before. Maybe he's a plug there, but I don't know. How is he a vice president when you have executive vice presidents? Like, what does he do? I don't get it. You know, I don't understand. This guy, good for fucking round of applause for Rocky Romero just making money, I guess. And,
oh my God, we need SOPs. I need to see an SOP. I need to see job descriptions. Are they on LinkedIn? We've got to figure this out because I just looked it up. They're saying that like with the Forbidden Door shit that he's helping them bridge the gap with CMLL, and I'm like, oh, so are they going to hoard their talent too?
He'll be a vice president of CMLL as well.
No, he's going to purge their talent too, right? That's the thing.
That ties into this next bit here. Remember when Tony, and what you're alluding to, Tony Khan, Rossy's a Fed informant and literally making gifts of that and like shitting on Rossy and Stardom basically. Well, Rossy Ogawa has a partnership, if you will, with WWE. There's a working agreement between Marigold, which is his new promotion, where he's got, Julia and the Joshis and other, of course, you'll see. You think Bailey doesn't want to have like a match in Japan for Rossy Ogawa's Joshi promotion? Like we're going to see all of that happen as well, but it's just like a system where, and this is what I thought AEW would be able to take advantage of before anyone else, but they didn't. But now WWE's doing it, and I applaud it so much. But yeah, this they're going to have their stars like rotating as like, and then this will be a feeder system, and he's going to train, because I always said it, the women in Stardom are trained how to be real solid pro wrestlers, and they're trained to be WWE superstars. They're trained to have a gimmick, work the camera, all be expressive, sell their asses off, all of these things. So anyways, WWE flew Julia and Rossy Ogawa to WrestleMania to make a deal. Ogawa is attempting to get Io Sky and Kairi Sane to Marigold for a major show this summer that he's going to announce shortly, so that's going to happen. And Julia is expected to be working for both companies, so people are like, NXT? Yeah, exactly. She can be the NXT North American champion or women's champion, defended on Marigold. We're going to see, I don't know. This is just really good for wrestling, and WWE now putting they have connections with Noah, Marigold, New Japan a little bit because they let Carl Anderson work there twice, and apparently he was like, yeah, bring Tama Tonga in. Like he was the one who really was like, you guys gotta hire him, but obviously he could just be working brother. But either way, now this Marigold promotion and All Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE's really sinking their feet into Japan. What do you make of all this, Paul Nolan?
I think it's an excellent move, and it shows an enduring commitment to women's wrestling, which obviously, as we were just talking about with the whole Nyla Rose and just the state of the AEW women's division in general. I mean, if you're a female wrestler right now, I have absolutely no idea why you would even think about going to AEW when you've got agreements like this coming up. You've got the strength of the NXT women's division. You've just got the strength of the women's division in WWE in general. And now there's a clear pathway for, obviously people from Japan, women from Japan to be able to move and work in the WWE system. I think it's incredibly positive, and we're going to get some insane talent coming through, and I can't wait to see Julia in a WWE ring. I think that's going to be a hell of a moment.
Kenny Omega to WWE confirmed to help run the operations with Marigold between. Let's fucking go. Let's manifest it. Marty,
After the
Marty,
last
what do
week,
you think?
dude, after
Yeah.
the last week, sorry, after the last week of listening to Kenny, I am fully on the Omega to WWE train now. I
Yeah,
want
man.
that
So
to
many,
happen
God.
big
so
time.
many people were in the comments like, man, he's actually pretty cool. I'm like, yes. I'm like, I told you, let's go. Marty, what do you think of this whole Marigold situation here?
Oh, I mean, it's going to be amazing. Yeah, I think we were talking about this like a few pods ago when everybody was criticizing Rossy. I mean, how can he be wrong when like 90% of the roster was willing to just give up everything and go? Even people that have been there like less than a year. That goodwill carries weight. There's a
And then
reason.
it
It was
pissed
like,
Tony Khan off though. Like, why did it
oh
piss
my,
Tony off? You know,
well,
like he was calling Rossi Fed informant, all this stuff. So he
well,
obviously had,
because he's a mark. He's a
yeah,
mark. He's
yeah.
another person on the time. He tweets like a regular like a broke person on Twitter, saying the same stupid shit, following the same narratives. If you check in Cage Match and stupid Meltzer and whatever the hell he's saying, and it's ridiculous. It's great for wrestling that they're bridging these gaps, because I know before the whole rhetoric was that they were going to do WWE Japan and all that. This was the smarter way to do it. New
Way smarter.
Japan, way smarter. It was like New Japan. I just as a side note, you know what New Japan reminds me of? New Japan reminds me of like, you know, the side chick that like tells her friends up and down, like, he said he's gonna leave his family for me. He loves me. He said we're gonna be together. Like that's how they are with AEW. It's it's like heart wrenching.
Yeah,
And the way that they don't focus on women's wrestling or Joshi wrestling the way that they should have. They just now got on board with that, and even then you've kind of seen that fall off.
yeah, and
But with
they don't want to spring the bill too. New Japan doesn't want to spring the bill for that like Arthur Ashe show or whatever. So
oh my God, but you've got all this money. Your dad's I've more money than Vince McMahon. There's a whole bunch of shit like everybody could pull up. But as far as this being so great for wrestling, it's like legit. Like Paul was saying, it's giving an emphasis on women's wrestling, because like the women's evolution, you know, I know that that was like the buzzword, but
yeah.
they were putting it in the forefront, and other people were trying to carry the torch, or you know, catch the baton for it to be their turn. What Rossi's doing is he saw that shit wasn't right. He wasn't happy. The talent wasn't happy. He started Marigold with one of the people that helped start Stardom,
Yeah.
that helped get Stardom. Like people, so that sure just shows you and their ability to get with Triple H and just see the vision and how this could work for both ways. This is a brand new promotion. It's going to take off. It's going to take off, and it's going to be amazing, and it's going to have the goodwill that AEW used to have
And
before
they're
they
gonna be
just.
like at war with Stardom, which is like the funny thing to me.
Oh my
The
God, it's
promotion wars, Joshi wars.
oh
Let's go.
oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, speaking of new feds, Freddie Prinze Jr. has revealed that his upcoming promotion will draw more from Lucha Underground than it will from
Ooh,
WWE or AEW. And he says,
interesting.
yeah, I love Freddie Prinze, man. Shout him out.
Hell
The
yeah.
look of it will be much different than AEW and WWE. There was a show called Lucha Underground, which utilized space really, really well, which had a
Hell
cool
yeah.
look to it. I always like that. It's going to be the presentation of it that I hope makes it stand out. Wrestling with Freddie, and he's just the nicest guy on planet Earth. What do you yeah, I don't, are you guys excited for that? A more Lucha Underground style? Obviously it won't be cheesy, but it's going to be like a cinematic wrestling fed is what he's going to do. Are you
That's
excited
dope.
are you guys excited for that or what?
I'm super excited by that because I
Hell yeah.
didn't see a lot of Lucha Underground, but the bits that I did see, I absolutely love. I want to shout out a specific match actually, which actually ties in nicely with the whole, you know, Marigold Stardom thing. There was
Right.
an insane intergender match between Io Sky, who back then was known as Hitokiri, versus Pentagon Dark. Basically, so it was Pentagon in
Yep.
AEW.
Yeah.
One of the fucking wildest matches I have ever seen. And
Hell yeah.
probably the best example of intergender wrestling I have ever seen, because they made it believable that
Oh yeah.
Io could beat that guy. And it was just the way it was shot, the action, the way it flowed, the choreography, amazing, absolutely amazing. And I agree with you, Phil. Absolutely love Freddie Prinze Jr. I want to give him a bit of a shout out because he actually was a voice actor on one of my favorite bits of Star Wars, and actually just favorite bits of television I've seen in a long time in Star Wars Rebels, where
Hell yeah.
he voiced Kanan Jarrus to much
Love it.
amazing effect. And hey,
R.I.P. Kanan.
Caleb Doom himself. And honestly, like, how can you not respect the man who married Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Oh, absolutely.
Big facts.
Yeah. For all
Big
these
facts.
years too, man. That's yeah. What about I watched like all of Lucha Underground. What about you, Marty? You were you into Lucha Underground, and are you pumped for
Watched
this?
it religiously, man. I'm
I
seeing
watched
a
it
King
all.
Cuerno mark. Okay, King
Yeah.
Cuerno was him. Prince Puma was dope. Like their whole setup was awesome. I feel like that was one of the best uses of Jeff Cobb ever.
Mm.
Like in anywhere. Like the belts were kind of, but it just flowed. Like it felt like I was watching a TV show about wrestling, but the wrestling was good enough to keep me interested the same way a typical pro wrestling match show was.
Right.
And Freddie Prinze Jr. is one of like his minds. Like when you hear him talk about wrestling, and like you can tell he's passionate about this. Like I wish Tony Khan sounded like that.
Yeah.
And the one thing that's just come to mind is, do you remember the rumor that he made Bray Wyatt a significant financial offer to be part of this promotion?
Yeah.
Do you not think, if he was thinking from day one he was going to go more in like a cinematic Lucha Underground direction, that now makes perfect sense?
Oh yeah.
Because you could imagine Bray with his creativity and his mind and how he likes to present things, like that could have been insane.
Yeah, and Karrion Kross as well was who
Oh
he
man,
was
that would have been
really
so great.
he was naming him like from the beginning, and they were both free agents at the time. Didn't Bray get released at one point? I'm not making
Yeah.
that up. Am I? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
got
got
released
released.
and he came back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Free.
that's when they did the whole White Rabbit thing, kind of similar to what they're doing with
Yeah, I was
with
in
his
the
brother,
arena
which
for some of that
is
shit,
great.
dude. It was spectacular. That build, man, when they would play that music and the lights would go red and you'd pull out your phone and this like, yeah, I don't know. They'd get crazy. Like, yo, like you weren't allowed to record that. You could film anything else, but the White Rabbit shit, they're like, no, they're keeping it a secret. You go
Just
outside,
on
there's
the,
flyers. There's
Phil,
flyers on your car under your seat. Like that shit was
amazing.
the
By
build
the
to that.
way, Phil, did you see that amazing tweet they put out through the WWE Twitter account, and it was all binary? And basically, like, I figured out what to do, and a load of other people did as well. And I actually put it into a binary to alphabet converter online, and the binary converted into a message, and it was something along the lines of like, "We are all you," or something like that, or "You are part of all of us," or something like that. And it was just an absolute work of like genius. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously the whole treasure chest, or the Easter egg hunt with like the QR codes and everything.
Yeah, it brought the feeling back.
Level, man. It restored the
feeling.
It
brought the it restored the feeling, because I was there, unfortunately, for that horrible Hell in a Cell match versus the lights were red, the cage was red. Like, yeah, that was in Sacramento. It was, oh god. So to see how much of a fart in church that was, to see how they were able to pivot back, and the whole, I mean, we all knew it was him, but just the build up, it was exciting. And I'm getting excited again for what they're doing now. Like, we all know what it is.
So Eric Rowan is apparently no longer, he's re-signed with WWE. He had to cancel indie dates and all that. We know Braun is coming back from like a surgery. Alexa Bliss, I believe, as well, is coming back from injury. And then Matt Hardy could come in. Those are all former Wyatt. And then you have Uncle Howdy, who we just saw at the Hall of Fame there. Bo Dallas. He just goes by his real name, is Taylor Rotundo or whatever. But yeah, Wyatt, the Wyatt family, do you think all of his former partners? Then you have Randy Orton, who was once a Bray Wyatt former partner as well. You could maybe involve him again or something. But yeah, that's like a faction that could
Wyatt Six, right?
Yeah, the Wyatt Six, whatever you want to call it. Are you guys, what do you think about that, man? You know, it's happening. Something's happening with Rowan and Strowman. We know that for sure. And Alexa Bliss and all that. It has to. And Uncle Howdy. So Matt Hardy could be a part of it. Would that cheese it up too much? Or is that.
Or Gacy, too. I think they were talking about putting Gacy.
Whatever
in
combo of people, I think it'll work. Would you guys be into that, or do you think like, nah, leave the Bray stuff at rest? You know?
No, I'm open-minded to it. I mean, I'm not. I was to be honest, this might be a bit controversial, but I was never a big fan of a lot of the Bray stuff, like outside of Swamp Bray right at the beginning, you know, when he was like the, you know, sort of, you know, out in the Everglades, like, you know, in the swamp doing this whole cult leader thing. Like, I absolutely loved that. I thought that was the best version of Bray. And I thought the version that was on his way back in his last run before he unfortunately passed, that was going in a really interesting direction, even though it had a bumpy start with, you know, the LA Knight match and everything. But the stuff with the Fiend and that I was never really into. I was just going to say to Marty, do you think we should actually try and rename the other way that, you know, you have like the Montreal Screwjob, or you have like matches have names? We should call that match that he was at with Seth the Sacrilege in Sacramento, because it was one of the worst matches I have ever seen. Like,
it
was worse in person. It was
worse
in person.
But could you even see anything? That's the thing.
You could see, like when Seth took out the tool chest, you could see that. You could see when they ran the ropes on like the western part of it, because I was right in the middle, like facing the cage towards opposite side of the entranceway, and then what was it? There's a part where like the lights were like dimming, but you could still see, because somehow the cage would light up even though they'd shut the lights off, so you could see it moving into place. It was so
crazy.
Crazy.
Hell in a Cell matches are hard enough to see everything anyway. I struggled last year when I was at Mania seeing Edge and Finn Balor, and that was fully lit.
Oh no, the one with Shane. I was at Mania 32 for Shane and Taker. I think that was that one you could kind of see just because it was so well lit, and the cage was just like unreasonably tall. Like, so you could see well in that one, but I think that's the only case that I've watched in person or on TV where I could like, oh, I can actually see everything.
So
that shit was crazy.
Yeah, we talked about how Bray Wyatt was released at one point. Drew Gulak, WWE status, pardon me, has emerged, and you know, Pro Wrestle Clips, if you haven't listened to it, or Pro Wrestle Times podcast, shout out the listeners if you haven't checked it out yet. We talked about this, where Drew Gulak pulled Ronda Rousey's string. It seems like Ronda's kind of just, you know, trying to sell her book, is basically, because even more's come out where she's gone on other podcasts since, and just kind of, it just seems like she's coping with her career in both WWE and UFC at the same time. But in kayfabe, the family, the D'Angelo family, took care of Drew Gulak, and he's not to be mentioned, I guess. So maybe, I don't think WWE would do that if they didn't investigate a bit, but also I think this has all been blown way out of proportion, and I think it's crazy. Ronda like basically got this guy fired by just like
an allegation.
Like, she said she fell down the stairs and was concussed going into the one fight, and her ACL was torn and all this. This is like however many 7 years after it happened or whatever. So she's saying all kinds of salacious, wild shit. And this is one of the things. And the dude like doesn't have a job now. And it started off as like, oh, this
he's gone. He's gone, like officially, or
killed him off in storyline gimmick. Dave Meltzer here. We're not going to play a flute here yet, because he's just reporting. So not yet. But he says, what I was told was that the witnesses were not conclusive. It was one person's word against the other, but Gulak was bad publicity, so he got whacked.
Well, the block is hot right now.
So Drew says, I don't know that he's, pardon me, Drew. Dave says, I don't know that he's been fired, but when I ask, it's like, if he hasn't been, he probably will be. It's not looking good for him. Let's put it that way. So I don't know, like, he's pulled from TV, at least maybe till this blows over. There's some witnesses who go, yeah, I never saw, like, Rousey's got to say who else was there besides.
So he's getting the Brock treatment right now, or just, I guess, like Voldemort, don't say his name for right now and do all that, because it just sounds like a bunch of bullshit sour. Yeah, it just sounds like a bunch of bullshit sour grapes. Because even then, it's like, that's a serious allegation. I mean, serious for with the current times. Right now, the block is hot. So I mean, they're going to take him off in general, with all things considered, and just take him off TV. Should he lose his job for it if nothing's conclusive? No, especially with her not even being in the best standing with the company as is right now, and that's why she's secret or very carefully not trying to burn the bridge completely, because she's speaking very highly of Papa H, because she wants that Charlotte treatment. She wants that Logan Paul treatment. It's all it. Yeah, you're trying to sell your book, but it's just like, maybe how hard we need to study that. How hard did Holly Holm really like knock her shit off?
Oh yeah. Marty, I totally agree with you. I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was like, did he pull her drawstring, or is she just yanking the chain? But the thing is, the more interesting aspect of this is, if you watch the Chris Van Vliet interview with Becky Lynch this week, Becky borderline fucking buries Ronda, and basically has formed a little bit of a concept which I think might catch fire, that basically Ronda is the female Hulk Hogan, because she was talking about their match. I think it was at 35, was it? Something like that, the Mania 35.
Yeah, the Kofi Mania.
Yeah, and they were going through the creative with TJ Wilson, with Natalia's husband. And apparently the whole thing was like, Becky's going to get her in the armbar, and like, basically she borderline looks like she's going to tap. And basically Ronda come in, they give her the creative, and like she said, like almost literally word for word, "That's not going to work for me, sister." And apparently when it came to the finish, she agreed to take the pin clean, and in the match she didn't take the pin clean in the moment. So, and apparently when Ronda was asked about, like, why can't you go with this creative? She said, "Oh, well, my parents would never speak to me again if I looked like I deliberately submitted to another person."
Jesus.
Like, you got your head kicked off and your face beat. Like, they still spoke to you. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
You have to lose matches at some point. This is a scripted sport.
Use it to clean the mats.
Like she looked like nearly headless Nick after Holly Holm kicked her shit off. Like, it's vexing. Like, I don't understand. Like, okay, tell everybody you want your job back, but also like shit on everybody that's still there. Like, you're not going to have any friends if they even bring you back.
Yeah,
and shitting on Logan Paul too for no goddamn reason.
The whole thing.
There's lots of reasons to shit on him for not getting the treatment of him in WWE, dude. That's not one of them.
No. But the whole thing gives me Forrest Whitaker eye, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Forrest Whitaker eye. So I don't know, man. Speaking of people talking dumb shit, Tony Khan did some media for AEW Dynasty. Are you guys excited for this? I'm excited for I talked about it on the last card, Samoa Joe in the main event. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Hell yeah. Well, yes and no. Yes and no with that. Yes and no with that.
Because
Swerve, how do we innuendo around this? Well, how do we innuendo around this? Because have you told Paul?
Well, I mean,
the affiliation.
Yeah, I think he knows. I think people on the show have put 2 and 2 together if they
Okay, yeah. So I have a relative that works for the company.
Yeah, in AEW.
Yeah, it works for the company.
We might be looking at them right now on screen, but we might also not be. But we probably might be, but also might not.
I'll be very careful what I say next.
I got a relative that works for the company, and for me, it's really. I'm a fan of pro wrestling. Like, I watch as much of it anywhere I can, wherever I can. Yeah, even this, and it's hard.
There's no heat behind the card, but on paper, all these matches are like, holy shit, this is great. But like, there's only really heat in the Swerve Joe match. Like, there's really, and even that's kind of, I'm sorry, but that feud, I'm still like, it's 2 fucking heels fighting at this point. God damn it, we need someone to go ultra baby.
Are they tweeners now? Because I'm looking at it like this. Like, okay, I look at
Joe is heel and Swerve still hasn't redeemed himself enough for me to go, he's a tweener.
He broke in somebody's kids.
That's what I'm saying. And I love Swerve, but like, he needs to fully redeem himself. And then we have like Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong with all that history. Man, you couldn't have built up to this match. Like, and like, expect me to watch the shit on Collision. In fact, factor it into the story on
Who
Dynamite.
watches
But no
Collision?
one watches Collision. Yeah, it's like, so you can't do that, man. So I get like Dave's going, there's too much storytelling, which we'll
There's
get
too
into
much,
Dave in a
too
second.
much storytelling. What the?
But yeah, the
too much
Dynasty
storytelling.
has no heat, man, behind it. But the card on paper looks great. You know, yeah, Okada.
It's like universe mode. It's like Tony Khan's playing universe mode, and you just throw all the shit in there, but it doesn't mean anything if there's no stories to it. I mean, and for for various other reasons, I got problems with Swerve with his verses. You know, when he's making references to things and calling it black and ugly, and we're supposed to forget about that.
Is
A
that
lot of us on it. Yeah, he had a verse. He made a verse in one of his horrible songs because he's just not good at rapping. He's not good at rapping at all. Like, I get that the homies tried to put him on or whatever. The only thing cool about the song is the hook and Nana dancing.
Yeah.
But I've met him in person. Good, cool dude. Very cool dude, but just the rapping thing, it's not hitting. But he made a reference where he was making a rap song or whatever, and then he said like, I got a girl who was black and ugly or some shit, and I'm like, yo, like a bunch of us, and I'm prefacing my outrage because like I'm not on the screen. I am of mixed descent. I am black and Samoan, and on both sides I was insulted. For this match, I'm insulted because I'm like, bro, I'm supposed to forget about that. You want me to cheer for you?
Yeah.
And on top of that, you breaking in people's houses and you rap horrible. Like, it's like, no, I'm not. No, we're not doing this.
Got heat with Swerve, dude.
We're not doing this. Look at Twitter. You could look it up. Lots of us have problems with that part because they want us to forget it. And I want to see him do well. I want to see everybody do well. But the thing is like, okay, you just now did right by Joe, which y'all should have did the moment he got in, the same way they should have with Rusev, or I can't remember what Mero, whatever. Like, they should have did that. They ruined it. So it's like they was trying to learn for what they did the first time. And then you get a champion because the MJF shit, him as a babyface was just not working, and it was horrible, and it ended the way that it was supposed to. Now he does a promo, no match. He ain't even like ending it. Like, they don't treat their champion with the same reverence they did when it was MJF every 10, 20, 30 seconds, when it was Moxley, when it was Jericho.
Even Moxley, look at this homecoming shit on Dynamite. Like,
oh my
he
God.
won the New Japan title, and you guys are giving him this welcome home. Like, what the
Where's your champion?
Dude?
What about your champion? Why is your champion not on here?
Like, here's the story. You build the story that Moxley's going to go to Japan and bring that belt back to AEW and whatever. Like, they didn't build any of that. Just all of a sudden, the New Japan storylines, like, yeah, we're trying to break into America, so here's the belt, Mox, and then they give him a homecoming.
Didn't they try that with the U.S. Championship or with the New Japan United States Championship? They tried that.
And it's just like Joe the first, he's your world champion. Like, look at how Raw gives Cody the first like 30 minutes of the show. Give Joe the first fucking 20 minutes to get his shit over. He doesn't even open
the show. He gets a 2-minute pro. So when's the last time he had a match after this recent one? You can't reference it. And then all you're gonna do is just fast track this shit with Swerve when it wasn't even resonant. We didn't even like finish what was going on with him and Hangman, who also got more shine as when he was champion, as much as an abysmal like watch that constantly was. There's a reason why they pivoted to Jericho in the beginning, but now you're gonna, because they're not very good at like blurring the lines. You're gonna hand it off to Swerve just so he can fucking lose it to Ospreay.
Yeah, at fucking Wembley or whatever, dude. That's what it's. It's all building to Ospreay.
I don't know, Paul. Am I wrong? Am I wrong in this? Does it not look? Where does it look like it's going? Because that's where it looks like.
That's what it looks like to me. It just looks like whoever has the belt now. I could see Joe maybe defending it against Swerve, but I just think no, it's Swerve's time, right? Like, there's no way they can have Swerve lose again. But it's just the story. Like, I don't care who even wins it because there's no fucking story. Paul Nolan, what are you looking forward to on Dynasty, and what is your basically what me and Marty were just putting down there?
Wouldn't give less of a shit about any of it, quite frankly, because I've not been given. I have not been given a reason to give a shit. In fact, the only thing that made me even remotely interested in watching Swerve and Joe on Sunday was that spot on Wednesday where Swerve went right through all those security guards off the top rope and then landed on his feet. That's the only thing that made me go, Okay, that might be worth watching. But other than that, this is like just listening to Marty and yourself, Phil, talk about this for the last few minutes. It just sounds like everybody talking about like 2017 to 2019 WWE creative. It's just like it's basically they don't see like the marks don't see that they have effectively created another Vince where there's
They
no
did. Tony
plan.
McCon.
There's
So I called
no
it on the
yeah,
live
yeah,
stream. I called him
yeah,
Tony McCon, and
yeah.
he's slowly becoming Vince McMahon. If you guys haven't yet, at Pro Wrestle Clips, I did like a 30-minute
Or
clip
Vince Russo.
where I'm talking about
Oh, even
how Tony
worse.
Khan is slowly like he's spread too thin. He's in too much creative. He's switching shit up on the fly last second. He thinks he knows what's good creative. Oh, it's good shit, pal.
Begging
But
people to stay at shows.
yeah, and Tony's just scooping guys up so other places can't have them and stuff, and not knowing what to do with them. He's incredibly out of touch. His hands are in too much. He's spread too thin. He's booking everything. He's at every show. He's not sleeping. Oh, this is great. He's becoming, and then all of a sudden on Dynamite, they cut to the Bucks, the EVPs. They're in Gorilla with Tony Khan behind the monitors, and Tony Khan's trying to look all tough, and they're like, yeah, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Yeah, it's great. So he's like becoming Vince McMahon, bro. He's becoming Tony McMahon. I'm telling you guys, man.
That reminds me. That reminds me of a story of we had a live Raw that I went to once in Liverpool in my hometown. And basically it was back in the days when, the creative was so bad, like the crowd would go into business for themselves and they'd shit all over everything and watch on everyone. And this was happening like during like even like tapings and stuff like that. And then basically Vince came out and went full heel on us and was like, giving it the whole like you people and all of this stuff. And
you
people, who do you think you
I
are?
come to your town and you don't automatically like the shit I'm giving you.
Listen to what he said. He goes, Liverpool, it sounds like a disease. I've got a really bad case of the Liverpools.
Yeah, I've got a bad case of the Liverpools. It makes
my liver is in a pool.
I Liverpool, that's why I took a shit in front of that girl.
And the funny thing is that got the biggest pop of the night, which was fucking hilarious. And it's so reminiscent of what's going on with Tony now. I mean, I didn't think it was a meltdown he had, but it was definitely like it reeked of desperation. You've got to contextualize this in that story the other week about Tony Khan being in Philadelphia, welcoming fans to WrestleMania at Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm here at the airport shaking hands in Abu Dhabi before the crown jewel. Yeah,
so weird. Yeah, it's just so weird. But getting back to the point, they haven't given me a reason to give a shit about any of this, and it's just Tony running his E-Fed.
Oh yeah, it's
for
a great
real
show.
Because it looks amazing on paper. And it's like, yeah, there'll be some great spots or whatever, but where's this going? I mean, I'll finish off by saying this about going back to Becky's interview with Chris Van Vliet, which is an amazing listen, by the way. She talked about the differences, and she talks about it apparently in a book, and she confirmed a lot of what we'd heard. Like, you turn up 6:30 p.m., your creative's completely ripped up. You've got to start all over again by the time the show starts at 8. There's that stuff was contradicting itself from week to week. And obviously that was very obvious by seeing what we were seeing on TV week to week. But she said Triple H has got vision, has a long-term plan, and sticks to it.
Yeah, and Tony Khan is pulling the Vince. He's pulling the Vince and apparently changing. We've heard Wrestling Observer say it, and they wouldn't lie about that because they just suckle from the teat. And so, speaking of which, Tony Khan being a little bit incompetent, he gets asked by Brandon Thurston on whether he paid for CM Punk's medical expenses after all this shit Tony talked about. Healthcare for the wrestlers and all this stuff, the triceps injury. Here's the media call. This is what Tony Khan had to say.
I was wondering if you could clear up something that was raised in Punk's interview a few weeks ago. He said that he personally paid for all of the medical expenses related to his 2022 triceps injury. I was wondering, can you say if there's any truth to that? And more broadly, is there a policy that AEW pays for medical expenses related to injuries that happen at AEW?
We typically do pay those expenses. I'd have to look into that. I can't say for sure. It doesn't sound right to me. If that is
like, you're the fucking boss, dude. Jesus Christ.
the case, then I would reimburse them. Honestly, I didn't think that was the case, and it doesn't sound right. So I would have to look into that. That's a good question, but doesn't, typically we do cover those medical expenses, especially for something that occurred in the.
This is what I mean. He's just so far. Like, how would he not? Typically we do, but I don't know about my top fucking star in my company if I paid for his tricep surgery. That means
you gave his own
Tony.
show.
Just say I didn't.
Ask Mega, or do we ask Rocket? Who do we ask these questions to? You're involved in everything. You should know these things because you're the first person to tell somebody that we have the best policies, and I would put it against any amount of money that AEW has the best policies against anyone.
Professional wrestling.
They're the safest place in professional wrestling, and like.
It's incompetence. And this is what pisses me off too when I talk to the boys and people are like, no, they just didn't drive to Nashville or whatever. No, I talked to these guys, man. You got to understand. They were being told, we just talked about shaky booking. The boys were being told, they asked, are we booked? We don't know yet. Okay, we'll wait and hear. Like they're getting told different things like, we don't know yet. As of now, you're not booked. You'll be booked, like whatever. And then out of nowhere, after years of working in Ring of Honor with different under Tony Khan's regime and the old ROH regime, out of nowhere, without any warning, they just get like flights to Nashville. And then when they asked about it, they were like, we'll give you new flight information, which they provided receipts on. And then they never received the flight information. So that's that travel geek who left CM Punk at the fucking airport in London, guys. That's what
I was just about to say.
The Mega Con and all, like, these are the people they're emailing. These people who have been fucking, not, this wouldn't be the first time they're incompetence. They've been accused of such things. Let's just put it that way. I'll leave it at that. So, So sorry, Marty, what you were just going to say.
If you're not Japanese or Caucasian, it doesn't seem like they pay that much attention to you.
Yeah.
Because like I always say on that part, there's like the issues, and that's why with the Punk thing, I was so shocked because I mean they have a tendency to not care about women's division or people of color. That's why I was happily
immediately.
Yeah, no, I was happily shocked that they stepped up. For I'm not blanking on her name. What was it? Nyla? Like they stepped up for Nyla. I was like, oh wow, look at them trying to beat the allegations. I love that. But and he loves wrestling, and I love ECW, and I love Ring of Honor, and that's why I bought it, even though I barely have what I have now figured out. It's like, okay, you have all this talent there that is there, like what Athena's doing there is amazing, and no one fucking knows about it. They are ruining Shane Taylor, like how they're treating the boys, who at this point are like staples of Ring of Honor.
Yeah,
and just what. People have paper trails. Like people can prove this. Like, and when you ask him these questions, he just, well, I don't know. I don't know.
He should have a grit. It just shows poor leadership. I mean, there's a billion examples. We're gonna keep covering it on this show until someone gets a grip of things. Paul Nolan, what do you think about pretty much what Punk, like Tony doesn't know. He doesn't know.
I'm just waiting for Punk to produce the receipts and invoices proving that he did in fact pay for the medical treatment. Yeah. Sort of like reversing the whole brawl out thing. I mean, or should I say, brawl in type situation. Absolutely hysterically funny. Like this guy does not know his arse from his elbow.
And it should be noted too that the boys also said that, like, that was in their messages, like, oh, if we rent a car. They're like, oh, rent a car and drive to Nashville. You'll be reimbursed. Bring receipts. And they're like, yeah, but we got chewed out for that before, so we didn't want to just do that again. We were waiting.
We couldn't rent a car because some fucking dickhead with an afro.
Because Jack Perry
he smashed the fucking window.
Oh
Jack
my!
Started on fucking Perry.
Oh man. So then Tony Khan discussed potentially stepping down as AEW booker in the future, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we can't do it together, or we can't do it forever. We'll one day we all can't. We have to stop. I'm only 41, but he's always talking. Wrestling's 52 weeks a year, no off season.
I've never seen him and Mickey Mouse in the same room at the same time, but
me neither. Yeah, prove me fucking prove me right, prove
I'm
me
just
wrong. And
I'm
so
just
we
saying.
talk about his incompetence, and the guy shows the Jack Perry footage, right? With CM Punk. They scrap. And we have numbers on the shit, man. So here's at the Rajgiri. The numbers were back to their recent regular range this past Wednesday. Dynamite averaged 762K viewers, dude. And this is the go home show. So why didn't they show the tape on the fucking go home show at least and try and
Why
promote
did they
the
show
pay-per-view?
the
They're
tape?
so
Period.
stupid. Why'd they show it in the first place? So this shit, they just dropped down. Tony wasn't touting the numbers. They like to say, oh, touting the numbers. Everything was down 13%. Everything's down. There's 760 fucking AEW fans. Less than, like, some of them are just like, how many? I don't know. It just proves Punk is in WWE. Jack Perry's in New Japan. They are AEW's biggest draw. Punk is still their biggest fucking draw. He's not even there. It's so goobery, and it just shows Tony's incompetence. I play the flute for Meltzer. I need like a trombone or something for Tony because I don't know. I'll just give him one of these.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse drop.
I'll give him
Like the Family Guy one.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
But
Pretty
yeah,
sure.
what do you guys think of that? Ratings back down to normal. The shit, it drew nothing. It drew nothing.
Just, do you remember the GIF I sent you on Twitter, Phil? It was just like this like, you know, fighter jet just crashing and burning.
Yep.
This show is crashing and it's burning. And when we talk about the Forbes stuff later on,
I was just gonna bring that up next, actually.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's absolutely nonsense that, you know, they're down year on year, they're trending downwards. You know, they actually annoyed a lot of people wwho were probably consistent viewers.
Well, for the listeners who don't know, Forbes valuated AEW at $2 billion. They valuated WWE at $6.3 billion, or $6.8 billion or something. And then they considered it a combat sport, of course, UFC being king. There's no way AEW's worth more than like some of these top ranked boxing promotions that fucking are doing huge super fights right now in Saudi Arabia and shit. That makes no fucking sense, man. But maybe it does. I don't know. People say Forbes shills to AEW. I don't know. They just showed that, like, they wrote CM Punk defeats Jack Perry in a backstage video. Like, we showed that on the last show. But I don't. To me, I think it's a joke. So I guess we can get into that. Yeah, Paul Nolan. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say, because isn't it Alfred Kanua who writes for Forbes on the wrestling? Like, he's written for them in the past. So that's where that tone kind of comes from. But yeah, I mean, like, it's laughable to me, like, being a UK guy, being into boxing and combat sports, that AEW is apparently worth 3 times as much as Matchroom boxing.
It just doesn't make sense.
I'm gonna call it that's cap. That's
Marty,
cap.
what do you think? $2 billion? Do you think AEW is worth $2 billion?
1 point. I'll give him over like a bill. I'll give him that. I'll give them $1 bill even. And a lot of that,
like, without their TV, what are they worth? Like, they're
worth whatever Tony's willing to spend of his dad's money. That is the $1 billion I'm giving them.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's reminding me. Do you remember that time, that like brief period? Of course, they were never going to compete, but, you know, as for sake of an example, you remember when TNA? This was like right before like Hogan fucked it up, where they had that goodwill when they were trying to like combat Raw at the time, which wasn't all that great at the time with Mondays, and they started with all this goodwill, and then you just saw the train just slowly starting to veer and come off the tracks. Or like mid '98 WCW, you just see it. It's like it had all this goodwill and all this potential, and then the owner with no vision just starts to sear, just bam, and they're still here because of people's resentment with the East, with the Fed, so much that their ability to be so anti because it's cool, or to just hate the Fed so much, even though that they're watching. That's why they always have something to say on what's going on.
Yeah,
that's what's going to keep them around. Well, that and unless Tony's dad just says fuck this, I give it, if it keeps going the way that it's going, I give it 2-3 years before his dad's like, make something of this, or you take it and you spend your money on it, because it's the storylines are non-existent. The favoritism is borderline nepotism at this point. They're not even trying to hide it. everything is an inside fucking joke. It's just this big circle jerk of all these inside jokes for these shows that nobody watches, based on like internet shit. The Bucks, it's dying, but I don't see it completely going away just because people's resentment and hate is just so strong.
No, it won't
and
go
it's giving
away,
them an outlet for it. It won't go away, but it's never
Yeah.
going to be 2 million. You're fucking crazy.
Yeah, I tweeted
You're
out and it
fucking
triggered
crazy.
some people. I said, "Yo, WCW sold for fucking 4 million at the end of the day." So what Forbes is gonna Forbes, they can say whatever, it's worth whatever. It doesn't really matter, you know.
Was
Yeah,
that? I don't think that was Alfred though, because he calls them out on their shit. I love it.
Yeah. So
No, it
the
wasn't
PFL
Alfred. No,
it
it
wasn't
wasn't.
Alfred. No, it wasn't Alfred. But the PFL bought Bellator for less than 100 million
Yeah,
in the end.
from like
And then
Viacom.
Forbes were valuing it at over 500 million. And then there was that rumor going around like Dana was interested in buying Bellator, and he laughed it out the park because they said, "Oh, you know, the rumored price is 500 million," and Dana was like, "Get the fuck out!"
And what do you get? Contracts and what? Like a tape library of like, I guess the tape library is where it all comes. Like ultimately, is where the most value comes from.
Yeah,
these companies.
exactly. Yeah. But you know, just also to reiterate, like to Marty, if he's not heard me say this before, but it's worth reiterating on this podcast. You can't start a new business based on the shitness of another business. You just encourage the competition to be less shit, and that's all that's happened here. And honestly, yeah, they've had a few sort of, from the AW perspective, a few unfortunate things happen, mostly to do with the fall of Vince McMahon and the rise of a certain Mr. Levesque. But that being said, they were on the road to sorting themselves out long before the Vince stuff happened. And all they've done is poke the bear, and they now have absolutely no advantage. And these numbers prove it.
So quick
They're
prediction.
not trying to be the alternative. They're not trying to be the alternative anymore.
Well, that's the thing. Like on this past Dynamite, they 100% ripped off like the WWE camera angle where they walked down the ramp and walked around, did the long continuous shot around the ring.
To them, it's trolling.
And here's the thing: they could have either they're trolling. Yeah, you're right. Either they're trolling, or what they're doing is they're just playing catch up. Like they could have been the ones to be innovative like that and started shooting wrestling the way WWE's doing it now, but they're not. He's Vince. He's Vincing himself. He's not. It's ridiculous. But
hiring all the people that leave. That's what they're doing. They hired the agents. They hired the technical guys. They even hired the artist, the Rob Schonlenberger or whatever.
Tony Khan said, "I'm not going to be like make the mistakes of all these old wrestling companies," but then he literally isn't making the mistakes of any one of them. He's making the mistakes of all of them combined. It's fucking hilarious. It's like
he's being a dollar store Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, the most epic fanboy shit ever. But really quick predictions, guys. So Evil Dose is saying that Warner's not interested. A friend of the show, Evil Dose, he's been saying he has a leak at Warner and he's knows about this and that, and he can break it down. He's an intelligent dude. He's breaking down all these numbers and shit, but he said that the deal's already off the table. AEW won't be with WBD anymore. They're not interested. To me, they're marketing True TV as their new sports and entertainment brand. I think Dynamite's going to end up on True TV. That's what I think.
So,
and they're going to get
very Impact era.
They're not going to get the 4 times the money that they were fucking talking about, but they're going to get like a chunk of change. The fans will cope, and they'll end up on True TV. Really quick, you guys,
Impact.
Do you guys think True TV, or do you think they're off WBD, or do you just think they'll stay on wherever they're at, TBS?
Well, their exclusivity period for negotiations is like very, very imminent, isn't it? It's like it's up
end of the month.
Days, end of the month.
Yeah,
so we'll know more at the end of the month, but I can't see it. I just can't see it. Eric Bischoff on his wonderfully new titled show, Wise Choices, which he took from Tony, which I thought was hilarious.
He
did a big breakdown of their YouTube metrics, and even their
I listened to the whole thing, man.
Me too.
Dive bombing off a cliff. So they can't even go
and listen to that podcast, guys. 83 weeks. Eric Bischoff sits down with the guy who blew up the UFC's YouTube channel. He's worked with other big YouTube channels. I've done work like that on YouTube channels before, some in the wrestling space as well. And he actually helped TNA build their channel up, which that's what created their whole boom and why they went back to TNA. I tried to tell you guys this. It's because the algorithm liked their TNA shit. They started banging on YouTube and Google searches and shit because they got their social media on point because of this guy, and all the retro TNA shows. People were like watching them every Tuesday and shit. Like they'd make it a routine. Like they were beating AEW like 4 months out of the year. How is that possible? TNA's YouTube was, man. And the guy breaks it down on Eric Bischoff's show. Like since Punk left, 1-to-1, their AEW's YouTube just plummeted off a cliff. Speaking of, just plummeting and crashing and burning and just making everyone cringe and laugh, it's time for everyone's favorite segment of the week. It is Dave Meltzer's dumb moment of the daily week.
Never get tired of that.
Dave. So we're speaking of creative direction and all of these things. Here is Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez getting into an argument, and Dave doing his infamous Bryan voice again when they argue over crowd heat in the Deonna Purrazzo versus Mariah May match. And I tweeted out, I was like, yo, there wasn't a bunch of heat in this, like for this match, but it was a solid match. But it was just the two girls have great chemistry together, but it's just like, I don't know, just listen to this little bitch fit fight. It's hilarious. This is what you all came for.
We had Deonna and Mariah May, and inexplicably Deonna is still a babyface, so she's out there making her comeback and no one cares. Tries
Bryan.
What?
There was a
Inexplicably, she's still a babyface. No one.
Yeah, she is miscast. She's very miscast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hilarious.
So she's out there making her comeback and no one cares. Tries
Bryan.
What?
There was a lot of heat in this match.
For Deonna's comeback? No, there was not.
Well, if they didn't do a comeback, they did back and forth, and there was heat.
No, they got.
They didn't do a comeback. They did back and forth. Dave
got heat on Deonna, and she starts making a comeback, and they did not care.
They went
at
back
the end when they started going back and forth.
When they got
cared.
back and forth, went back and forth, the crowd was real into this.
Yeah, because they were into Mariah.
They were into both. When they went back and forth, they popped for both one's offenses. This one,
dude, oh my God, they popped for both of their offenses. Oh my God, Dave, what has wrestling become?
Bryan, they were into this match.
No, I watched this match. I was like, we're doing this again. Deonna's making a comeback, and it's quiet.
They weren't.
I was watching it. I'll load it up right now if I have to.
Load it up. Load it up.
Load it up. Load it up.
You're Bryan fighting back.
Match. They were not into it at the beginning. They were into it at the end. I can't complain. I can't say one negative thing about this match.
I didn't say anything negative about it.
It was a good match, and the crowd was into it. What more do you want?
Mariah slipped out, hit a kick, running hip attack.
So, I don't know. Paul Nolan, your thoughts on that little bitch fit there?
I mean, it's increasingly turning into old married couple Statler and Waldorf territory with these two, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's hilarious. Whether it's the fucking, the argument about the DVR, the DVRs and all that stuff, and the overruns and all that stuff, and Bryan getting increasingly exasperated. I am working on a bit of a theory though that, actually it goes back to shout out to Alfred Kanua. He did a video on Pro Wrestling Bits where he was talking about like every time Dave does something like this, his engagement skyrockets. And I think they're tapping into that now. And I think they're just starting to deliberately say shit to basically, get clicks essentially. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not they run afoul of the new Twitter rules, because apparently engagement farming's on its way out.
How do they gauge the engagement? How do they gauge the engagement farming? How the fuck do they?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm sure that's just some sort of algorithm or some sort of AI to do that. So
Jesus Christ, Marty, what do you think about their little bitch fit there? And Bryan fighting back a little bit. We've seen more and more of this recently.
Yeah, I think especially in the past year, like with the downturn of AEW, I think it's even getting to a point where Alvarez I know he's supposed to work the gimmick, but I think he like snaps out of it and like thinks like the rest of us. It's like, no, this is fucking stupid. This is bullshit. And then just Dave I fully expect this of Dave. And like Dave is is like if Jericho's 1A, then Dave would be 1B, and they just switch off back and forth between thinking that they're smarter than they are, and then just like tripping and stumbling into some shit that kind of works, and then taking it and running it into the ground to where it never becomes convincing ever again.
Marty,
Because
we
at some
should
point,
form a tag team called the Dunning-Kruger effect.
oh my god, that would be awesome. That would be the greatest thing ever because it would make shit. That would do numbers because this is fucking ridiculous. Like, okay, Dave, just ask Tony. Ask Tony for a job. It's worked for some other people in the space. I know some people in the space that have done plenty of kissing and fucking making of excuses and ended up getting a check for it. So maybe you know what I mean. Maybe he's a silent owner at this point because there's no way in your right mind you can tell anybody with working brain cells that you could justify most of the shit, especially that match. That like what?
Yeah.
First off, the 17 people in the crowd were hot for that.
Yeah,
How?
I don't know, dude. I watched it and they weren't. It wasn't really a hot. They weren't really hot for it, but it was a good match. I like both those ladies, but
They just were
Dave
looking at Mariah
Meltzer.
May.
Yeah, Dave Meltzer. Speaking of women's wrestlers, though, he goes. Dave Meltzer had incredibly high praise for Stardom's AZM following her appearance on AEW Collision last week, claiming she's a better wrestler than Mercedes Moné. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, what does that even fucking mean? She's so good. She's such a good wrestler. Even if Mercedes gets back to the level that she was,
Gotta be
AZM's actually
Japanese.
a better wrestler than she is. What
And
does
Gotta be
that
Japanese.
even mean? It's Marty, go ahead. What are you
I'm
saying?
saying he's saying, well, like I said, you got to be Japanese.
Yeah,
Especially if you're a
for
woman,
Dave to push you over, yeah.
then you get nothing. Then you to get your 5 stars or your cage match rating. And the
Never
irony of it
seen her.
is, oh no, exactly. The irony of it is though is just for him to criticize Mercedes Moné, but don't like only poor people like what poor people only watch WWE. So if you CEO with all the money, you think it's part of what rich people shit.
Yeah.
And
Jesus.
they're not like they're I don't know if you got into it the way that they're burying her. Remember, I told you this before. If she goes over there, she's gonna do a promo. They'll have her on TV once a week, and then she'll do a match every 3 months
Not even on the
until the
paper.
contract runs out. Oh my god.
She's not even on the pay-per-view, and then Dave's going out and going, yeah, AZM's so good. She's like better than Mercedes Moné. Like, what? Why are you bringing Mercedes into this, bro? Like, what the fuck? It's so weird to me. I'm just,
Wow.
what does this even mean? Like, it's just like, Dave, Paul Nolan, what do you think about this one?
Well, yeah, I thanked Marty for saying what was on my mind. It's like, of course he's saying that she's Japanese. You know, it's as simple as that. You know, it's all these sort of, niche Japanese talents. They're always better than everyone else. And, the classic, 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome and all that bullshit. It's just, it doesn't, like you said, it's meaningless. It's empty. It's just some words that fall out of his brain in like not much of an order.
Yeah,
Well,
dude.
even the ones he's talking about though, because all of the great ones that deserve that praise or that he talks about that are Japanese, where do they go to work? Where do they always end up? Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Just an observation.
Mm-hmm. And where are they going to end in future with everything that's just unfolded?
Tatum, he had something to say about WWE NXT Tatum Paxley. Now,
Oh, her and
NXT
Trick
as one of the best women's divisions in the history of wrestling, I would honestly say. And Meltzer goes, I hate the character, hate it. It's just a waste of time. It sucked with Alexa Bliss, then Alba Fire and Nyla Dawn did it, and it wasn't good with them either. And she's the worst out of all of them.
Did you like Mariah May?
What? Well, here's the thing. Mariah May is just like her gimmick is doing Tony Storm's old gimmick.
It's the dolled up, yeah, but prior to that, it was the dolled up version of this. The obsessed follower that gets involved in the matches, that even gets to a point where they copy the gimmick. It's the same shtick.
But he's comparing it to Alexa Bliss because it's spooky, and like Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, and it's like, hey, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn aren't anything like Alexa Bliss, dude. What the fuck, Dave? He's so out of touch. And then she's the worst out of all of them. So I've said it. I don't like all the spooky chicks all the time, but I don't know. Dave just being like, I hate this character. I hate it. And it's like, I don't know. It's kind of it's the same thing as Mariah May, like you're pointing out. So it's like it's not my
Does he
favorite.
hate Julia Hart?
But then he doesn't even compare it to fucking that. He compares it to Alba Fire and shit. And it's like, well, they're like that movie. They're like the girls who got lost in the forest and enchanted by the witches and are dancing naked around the cauldron. Like that's different than this. I don't know. This is like obsessive goth friend. I don't know. Dave just shitting on this gimmick.
Who hurt him in high school that he has to carry this with him?
He's allowed to have his opinions though. Like I'm never gonna hate a motherfucker for having opinions. So yeah, what do you think though, Marty? Like what do you think about, I mean, you said it, Mariah May. What about you, Paul Nolan? What about you? You feeling this?
I think it's hilarious. I think I saw it on Twitter somewhere where somebody said Dave clearly thinks black lipstick equals spooky.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just bullshit. I mean, the one thing I'd say that will probably cover a lot of what I think about the whole Trick Williams thing is that, has Dave ever been told that NXT is a fucking developmental platform? Why are you burying people like they're on the main fucking roster? Stop it.
Because it's the Fed.
It's the Fed, bro. But yeah, Marty, so like
the takeovers do more numbers than Dynamite has, that is on equal par with all these bullshit pay-per-views that nobody paid. Like, I don't pay attention to shit. I can't get through. I got relatives there. I can't get through an episode of Dynamite in one sitting. Like, it takes me 2 days of getting through it, or I'll just watch recap shows on YouTube the next day after I watch what I want to see in it. And the fact that NXT has just been just on fire. Like this is like recently, it's been like the gold and black era, like takeover levels of like consistency, storytelling, like character development, like it's concise.
One of the main reasons for that is because of a gentleman named Trick Williams, who then Dave Meltzer brings up, and this was just the worst shit ever that he could have ever said. Meltzer lost the sauce officially, folks. Trick isn't that, he never had the sauce, but you guys know what I'm saying. Trick isn't that good. That's the reality. He's got incredible charisma, but you put him in a main event match. Granted, he did look really good against Ilya, but Ilya is one of those people that gives you a false perception of the ability of the other person. Dave, what are you fucking
Did he just unintentionally compare Ilya to Bret Hart?
Jesus Christ.
That's basically what he did.
Or a tag team wrestling the Young Bucks. You always look better. Huh?
I'm sorry, who of the young Okay, you triggered me. You triggered me. You triggered me. Who of the Young Bucks made look better? They bury everybody that they work against. All of their best matches were in New Japan. It's the same shit. Just to dead that. It's the same shit and the same bullshit rhetoric. The elite as a whole have not looked as great as anyone says they are since they all left New Japan. That includes Kenny. Yeah. All of his that's why they bring people over from New Japan to try to bring the magic back, because it doesn't correlate. To say that Trick hasn't improved or that he hasn't gotten good, did he not pay attention to when he first got there, to his first matches, to like how comfortable he was on the mic in his promos, his ability to tell stories? That what was the match? The clock one. I can't remember the name of the match right now. That they did at they did at the takeover. Like just the build of that, it looked like he was going to win it, and they literally had us believing, oh, they're going to shit on Trick, and that.
Oh, go ahead.
That comeback at the end, that alone, how believable that was, and how we were all like sucked in. Just
over,
thinking
like over, dude. Especially like when they go to
you hear the crowd, dude, they popped at SmackDown. He popped Saving Mello at SmackDown.
But Dave goes, Trick isn't that good. That's the reality. He's got incredible charisma, but when you put him in the main event match, granted, he did look really good against Ilya. So I responded, I tweet out, I go, Meltzer says in the same sentence, Trick wouldn't be good in a main event, even though he did good in the main event he was just in. And I just wrote, he's got to be trolling. There's no way he's this stupid. And unfortunately, I think he is that stupid. And then I also tweeted out and responded. I just said, yo, Dave's such a dummy. Why isn't Trick good? Because he doesn't do flips and bury all his moves. Here's an idea, Meltzy. Maybe Trick is just over because he's that dude. He doesn't have to do shit because whatever it is, he just has it. I don't have enough characters because I would be like Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? Whatever, which means more than your 5 stars. The flute, cued the flute up. Dave's holding L's. Paul Nolan, what do you think about him just like shitting all over Trick, who's like so over in NXT right now, dude. It's like ridiculous how over this guy is.
Well, I can see where he's coming from on one perspective, if I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you wrestle against the two bouncers from the Blue Oyster Bar, anyone's going to look good against those two motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Young Bucks, because for me, they look like two bouncers from the fucking Blue Oyster Bar and fucking Police Academy. But
Agreed.
especially with their current get up, right? Or, the Rockers tribute act, basically dollar value, Rockers. But yeah, this is absurd. Like, they just did the biggest gate in NXT history. You could have fit 3 to 4 AEW TV tapings in their one takeover crowd. And he has the nerve to say that when, again, he's putting over, trendy, small European white dude who, don't get me wrong, Ilya's really good. Looked great against Nakamura on Raw recently. I'm a
Agreed.
fan, like him, very interesting. But, you just can't do that to somebody like Trick because he's over like Rover. He's got a great gimmick. He's got a great look. He's got the it factor, like you said before, Phil, and he's only going to trend in one direction. So I refer back to my previous comments, which is I know it's because of the Fed, but regardless of that, how fucking dare you, Dave Meltzer, shit all over someone who is literally only, 2 to 3 years into this and is clearly on the job learning and doing amazing things already. And in 5 years is probably going to be on the top end of the main roster. Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, he'll be
He'll
main
be world champ in the next 5 years.
Yeah, he'll be main eventing WrestleManias one
Him
day.
and
dude.
Braun and a few others, yeah.
Yeah, guys, that was an awesome show. So Jim Johnston, the last thing I guess is Jim Johnston and Def Rebel. What do you guys make of like the Def Rebel starts trending because everyone's making AI versions of their fucking music, and then now they're trending and everyone's like, bring Jeff Johnston back. Just real quick, like, what are your guys' thoughts on all of that as music aficionados, Grammy winners?
Yeah, I mean, we are discussing doing an entire show devoted to this, aren't we?
Yeah, we have to.
Themes.
We really do
Yeah,
have
Yes.
to.
yeah,
Us three.
great wrestling themes. What makes a great wrestling theme? And the thing for me with Def Rebel is that they probably. I mean, I'm reticent to kind of shit all over another artist, but when it's clear that people are just phoning it in, you can understand some of the online reaction.
Yeah, it's
because
great.
some
We
of the
got a job with
themes-
WWE.
yeah, we can just churn out this like factory, like this production line. Like I've got friends who work in production music, production library music, which is an entire part of the music and media content industry, which is about to be smashed
huge
to
part.
pieces. But it's going to be smashed to pieces by AI. Like
Yep.
in a few years, we're not going to do that anymore. Like humans are not going to do that job anymore. So, it's understandable because there's been tremendously much more misses than hits when it comes to Def Rebel. And, really, like the iconic themes in WWE don't really exist that much at the moment. Like the hit to miss ratio has been very, very high. And I can understand people wanting to bring Jim back. One thing I'd say about Jim, though, there's an amazing podcast with him that's well worth listening to. It's by the guys over at Score, which is ostensibly a podcast about film score and film composition, really nerdy stuff around like, what Hans Zimmer and, all those big guys in film music do. They did a podcast with Jim Johnston, and he
That's
goes into some
incredible.
detail around like how he come up with like the Undertaker's theme and how he come up with all these like iconic elements. And really what Jim understood more than anything was sonic branding. The fact is like, you listen to something on an advert and, back in the day you think of, the intel inside. As soon as you hear that on an advert, you know what it is, Jim had that, the bong, the glass smash. It's not necessarily musical, but it's an almost Pavlovian response that he was able to generate with iconic sounds that just stuck in people's heads like memes almost. And, to an extent, some of that can't be taught. But at the same time, it just feels like Def Rebel aren't even trying. and it's just all becoming a mulch. It's all just starting to sound the same, and now we're getting into, obviously how they butchered AJ Styles theme recently.
And
They've changed
Bailey.
Bron Breakers, they've changed Bailey's, and it all just sounds like you're on fucking hold to an insurance company.
Oh man, tough talk, man. Yeah, Marty, what do you make of it? What do you make of the AI Def Rebel memeing and Jim Johnston? Like, should he come back, or do you just think you find someone new? Do you think they get fired? People are saying they're going to get fired.
I don't think that they're going to get fired because right now they're too cheap and they're probably locked in a contract. As far as Paul was saying about Jim, to me, Jim Johnson he's like the Christopher Nolan of like themes. Like his ability to just be able to understand a moment or how sounds can correspond with a memory. When you hear that gong of the Undertakers, when you
Yep.
hear, you know what I mean, when you hear the guitar riff for Brett, when you hear the glass break for Austin, and many others, or the car screech for Mankind, or
It
right before
smells.
Razor Ramones. Yeah, or you know what I mean, or just the different variations of Rock's theme, how it's just in its base, it's the same thing, but the ability for it to elevate and the evolution from where it started to now is just, it's mind blowing and it's amazing because anybody, even casuals or people who stopped watching years ago, they hear those sounds at the beginning of those themes and it triggers a memory. It's
Yeah.
there. It's in you. It's forever. And I remember when the CFOs were there and everybody hated them because we wanted Jim Johnston back, and realizing like how much great shit they gave us and how everybody's like clamoring to get that back. Like I still miss Ricochet's theme, old theme. Like they just completely just butchered it. What they're doing now is that it's like they're becoming the Def Rebel is basically becoming AI before AI. They're like human versions of
Yeah.
AI, where they're like, oh wait, so if we just do things like AI, then they'll just keep us around because then they don't have to come up with a program to go
Yeah, I
ahead and
bought
do
these
all this.
androids from what is it again? Oh, I fucked it up. From
Yeah,
China.
no,
I got them from
yeah,
China.
from China. Yeah, so I'm
What-
saying, and I mean, they got. I mean, I will say, I think that
from
Roman's
Temu. I
theme,
got these
Roman's
androids from
theme was
Temu. They
awesome.
make music. It's great.
Oh yeah, like what they did with Roman's theme, I'll give them points for that. They've had a couple. They've had a couple.
Romans, they've hit big time.
Amazing. Yeah, they've had a couple ones, but it's like, okay, I think if it's possible, with the regime that's there now, they could bring him back. Or at
Bring
this
Jim
point, I would
Johnson
take the
in to work
CFOs
with
back.
Def Rebel. Just bring them in to all work together, and then
At least have him teach a class. Like, can we
Yeah,
get an NXT for the music? Like
Yeah,
sonically, it's sonically numbing. Like it inspires nothing. It gets to a point where there were periods of time, like my fiance, I just got her in like kids back into wrestling in the last like 2 years. Like they're heavily invested, like they're more excited than I am most of the time. But we're watching a rumble. What was it? The first one, 38, first one, the Cody one, right? That was like I was watching with my wife for sake of example. She's asking me like, okay, like who's this or who's coming up? There were periods of time where the music would hit after the countdown, and I had no idea. I watch weekly, and I'm like, wait, who is that? I think that's oh yeah, that's so like it's just that uninspiring where like you can watch weekly and there'll be periods of time where you're gonna forget, or you're trying to explain it to people and you have no idea who's coming out, or there's a new theme and it's almost insulting when you hear it. Where it's like if you have like an attachment or like a deep reverence or love for, or passion for this wrestler, and then you hear their new theme and it just sucks the life out of you. Like like there's been periods of time where it's taken my enthusiasm for a wrestler and like punched me in the gut because I'm just like, ugh.
I think
I
Triple
don't
H
even
and
want him to
them.
win.
I think yeah. I don't even want to hear that. Shit. I think Triple H and them listen to the fans and they know, and they'll be like, yeah, we'll fix it and we'll tweak it, or we'll have a pep talk, or yeah, Jim Johnson will get his ass in here, teach a class.
Let me and Paul, give me and Paul jobs. Like,
Yeah, basically, yeah. This
let
is
us
the
figure it
pitch.
out
This is the
because this
pitch,
is
exactly.
ridiculous.
Yeah, because it is very similar to like film scoring in a way. Actually, like I've mentioned in a previous pod that I've got a friend of mine who's on the Indies in Denmark, And I'm just waiting for the right moment. He approached me like a while ago. He's undergoing a bit of a gimmick change at the moment. And he said, like, when I'm ready, would you like write my theme music for me? And I was like, absolutely. That's something I've always wanted to do.
That's
And
epic,
it's the
dude.
same. It's like it's character, right? You look at John Williams in terms of how he used to write stuff. You look, you watch Star Wars. It's like there's recurring motifs, recurring themes that are used in different ways that talk about the character. That's basically what it is in wrestling. You've got possibly a 2 minute, even like a 10-second window to imprint that. Like I love what Marty was saying about like imprinting like a memory onto a sound. So you get that almost Pavlovian response.
Yeah, and that's why.
That's what it's about. And you look at the
And
gong at WrestleMania, look at that. I mean, look at the
yeah,
response. It was just like, it was like somebody like knocking your knee with a hammer. It was like involuntary. Bongos, gigantic, massive nuclear pop.
and
So
look at
We
the
have no
response.
idea why the Undertaker was there, but we
yeah, but it
we
didn't
heard the
matter.
sound. We
Yeah,
heard the
exactly,
sound, and then it was like we forgot that this makes no sense. I was
yeah,
at Mania.
exactly.
I was at Mania 31 when they did that NWO, like the NWO, what's it called, fucking with DX shit, right? So like
Oh yeah,
it
the
was
Sting
chaos. It was
match, that
pure.
the overbooked Sting
Oh
match,
my,
basically.
yeah, it was pure fucking chaos. But for like that brief period of time, it was almost like getting contact high because we were just watching like, wait, what the fuck is going? Oh, and then you're like, you didn't even finish the what the fuck was going on thought because then boom, you would hear the music and you
Yeah,
get excited, and then you hear the
yeah,
music and get
absolutely.
excited, and then afterwards you're like, wait, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, exactly. And then just to sort of flip it from my experience at Night to a WrestleMania last year, actually, I've got to say, outside of Roman's entrance, which was amazing with the pianos and everything else,
Hell yeah.
the entrances that worked the most were the ones that had licensed music. So Cody Downstate, obviously that's his record. So, but it's not a Def Rebel or a CFO or anything like that. It's not in-house to WWE. And then the other one was Edge because he used South of Heaven and then obviously, Alter Bridge with, Metalingus. So they had the biggest pops. They had the most, recognizable, like it had the best feel. So that's when you know you've got a problem because your in-house music is just not standing up to the third-party music that's being used by certain talents.
Oh,
Yeah,
AEW doesn't get a pass too. Mike, whatever, what's his
Mikey Ruckus.
whatever, Mikey Ruckus is. I'll give him, you know, 3 points to Gryffindor for being better than Def Rebel, but this shit, this is like mid 2000s to like '05 to like
Yeah,
'08 TNA levels of bad, or not even. I'll probably say
I'm
2010
not
through
like a
14
hater.
levels of TNA bad.
He's got some that are like pretty, that are like okay, like they have some good themes in AEW. Like FTR's is really good. I feel like the Guns' old one was really good. They're
Oh
like
yeah, that one was the Guns one was really good.
Yeah,
They've ruined
but
people's stuff. I've been asking. I'm trying to ask my cousin like, can I, like I'll write it.
yeah, you
I'll, if
should.
you want, like,
You
I'll
really
do it,
should. You
please.
really should. His theme's fucking awesome though. Like I think they nailed that one too. Like sort of the variant on what is
The
NXT.
NXT one was perfect though.
It was that one was perfect though, yeah. But they nailed the right whatever. But yeah, Mikey Ruckus, I've seen him like getting like flipping out on people who trash his music online and shit on Twitter. I would too, I guess though. Like if I would get defensive, or maybe don't. It is what it is. But yeah, you could. Speaking of what Marty writes here, and I was gonna say the Pavlovian response is what you call it. That's why I play the Dave Meltzer flute. Associated with now forever. The
It's like we
dumb
just get excited
sort of.
that he's gonna say some stupid shit that we know he's gonna say, but it makes it entertaining. Like I'm excited to hear how stupid it is. Like
Well,
it,
speaking of what you write there though, Marty, Hurricane just came out, Lucky Day, and yeah, I wanna just I don't know, I don't wanna get pulled down, but
you're good.
everyone go check it out. Marty McFlyer wrote on this one. And yeah, man, it's I listened to it like 3 or 4 times, like just back to back. It was when you first sent it to me there. It's a banger. So
Thank you.
shout you out for that. I will plug that. What else do you got going on, Marty? What else do you got going on before we get out of here?
I got some stuff with an R&B artist named Vito that's dropping. He's also a Grammy Award winning artist and songwriter. So it's awesome. I got a couple other things I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about yet, but I'm excited about that. I just worked with an artist named Sir. Uh, Great person, amazing music. His album just dropped about a week or so ago, so I've just been keeping busy with that. Oh, I will take this time to say that anybody that's listening to this, that's into music, because they've heard Paul. I've heard your guys' past pods. Paul is an amazing source for this. Dude does great work. Definitely tap in with him. I have. I'm glad I did. But if you guys are getting into it, just understand that songwriting is not a lucrative business to get into. We're incredibly underpaid, understated. We have to pay for our own flights, our own lunch. Uh, just splits are horrible. We don't get any points on the masters. It's all bullshit. If you're gonna get started, research your PROs. Look into sync licensing because it's it's understated and it helps a lot more than other things. Be as collaborative as possible and don't quit your day job because if you can't engineer or produce or sing, like all I can do is write, writing and song arrangement. That's all I can do. So if you want benefits, keep your regular job for benefits and then do this. And there's a level of, I'm sure Paul can attest to this, there's a level of passion and fucking borderline, not even borderline, insanity that you have to do this. Because if you're doing it for all of the recognition, if you don't have the connections like that, or you're not comfortable with wearing knee pads, if you get what I mean,
Yeah,
and
that's
all
what I
those
got
other
out of it,
things,
man. I just don't, I didn't. It was just too much. Like,
you
me
have
and
to be
Paul were
crazy to do
talking
this.
about
You
it.
got,
We were
you
just
got to
talking
love
about
it and be crazy.
you do.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a weird sickness. Chappelle's talked about it. It's entertainment in general. Artistry in general. But
Mhm.
yeah, man. So and then what about Sucio Boys podcast? Is that
Oh hell yeah, we got Susio Voice podcast. Me with my co-host Susio Sloan Kettering, Ahun the Shogun. We had Phil on there. It's just
no,
usually it's just pure fuckery. That's the
it
quickest
was
way that
so,
I could
dude.
probably
I
say
was
it.
like, I was so taken off guard. I didn't realize what it fully even was. But like you guys were just, I don't know. I was just sitting there laughing the whole time. I felt like I contributed nothing to the show, but it was a fun ass time, man. I'd come back on anytime.
Yeah,
But
you're welcome anytime. It's just you just think of it as just hanging out with your friends, talking shit. It's like tweeting out loud,
yeah,
just
we
with
got to
your
get
friends.
Sloan in here on this show
What could
too to
what
talk
could
some shit
possibly
about
go
wrestling.
wrong?
Yeah, no,
Oh, I mean, we have sponsors, so it's helped, but definitely, yeah, we should definitely get Sloan on because Sloan is definitely also very tapped in terms of with wrestling
pro
Twitter,
wrestling. Yeah,
wrestling Twitter, and just like pro wrestlers in general. I know he has his show with the professor that's about to come back on.
shout out the
I cannot
professor too. I love that
yeah,
guy.
shout out to Professor. So that's coming on. So yeah, Sloan, we definitely would have to add Sloan on here. Just outrageous shit will be said. It won't be offensive, but it'll be funny. And 9 times out of 10, if you're thinking it and don't want to say it, Sloan will just say it, so you won't have to, and then you can laugh. So if there's any blowback, it doesn't hit you. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you, brother Sloan.
Yeah, man. Okay, so and round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Marty McFlyer for being here. He's the man. Paul Nolan, the wise man of PWT. We're talking about he might get his own show cracking on here that comes out like maybe not even weekly, but just whenever he wants to drop something, maybe he'll do that. But that's some off pod stuff. On pod, what do you got to plug? What do you got going on tonight and in your life, and anything you want to promote? Or I know you're gonna go party tonight.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna go and party tonight, and actually, it's really interesting, like listening to Marty and everything he's got popping off at the moment because I just took a decision last week to take a 3 month sabbatical because I was
I'm so
burnt
close.
out. Yeah,
I'm so
dude.
close.
Yeah, dude.
I'm
I would
so close.
recommend it. I'm 1 week in, and I am absolutely loving it. Like, I feel like a
Really?
massive weight has been lifted off from
But
me,
how did you
and
get to it? Because like it's like toting the line. I was telling Phil it was like a couple weeks ago. Like I'm after the announcement and the wins of the Grammys, it was busy, but then it's been unfairly crazy, and it's just, I want to stop, but it's like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It just became a necessity for me because, like, I literally found myself with an empty gas tank. So I came out to live in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, for 3 months, and took a 2-week
Oh, I've
holiday.
been.
It's amazing, right? What a city! Like, it's incredible.
Yes, we'll have to talk about that off pod, but yeah, I had a great time.
Oh, man, I gotta come visit this motherfucker.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for me, it was like I took the 2-week holiday and then tried to go back to work, and then I was like, I've got nothing left in the tank, you know. And when I do what I do a lot as well as DJ, I do a lot of artist development work in the electronic music space. So I like incubate, develop new talent. You know, I've got a lot of people who are like sort of dependent on me for coaching and stuff. So it wasn't an easy decision to make. But now I've made the decision and realizing that coming back like in 3 months, I'm going to be much more fresh, much more inspired, and, you know, ready to kind of like get back to it. I've made the right decision, and I've gotten so much support from the artists who I develop and, you know, nurture and stuff. And, you know, I'm starting to already feel little green shoots of inspiration because I wasn't feeling very inspired to write anything, and that was a big red flag for me. It was like, something's off here. I've got to take a step back. It's the first step back I've taken in 20 plus years in the electronic music industry, so it was well earned and well overdue. So apart from that, I'm out raving tonight and tomorrow, and you know, I'll have a sore head on Sunday.
Turn the fuck up. Let's go.
Okay, guys, thanks so much for tuning into Pro Wrestle Times. I've been the infallible Phil Marks. You just check me doing everything on X and doing, you know, making videos about wrestling and shit. You guys know. Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, and just thanks so much for all the support we've been getting on both channels. Both channels are popping. There's going to be live streams going to both, dual shit. I want to get Twitch up and running, but yeah, guys, I don't know. I just appreciate you guys so much. Like, more and more subscribers, more. I just really can't tell you in the members. I'm going to show you guys